Hello to everybody out there in the world of fragrances, you who may wish to refer to yourselves as members of the Smelly Army. So in today's video we're going to have a look at 5 resurrected fragrances from Dua, and I'm going to ask you the question, which fragrances would you like to see Dua resurrect, bring back from the dead? Before we do that, we do have to make some money on this channel somehow, and one of the ways we do that is by including some adverts now in the beginning of the videos. So I'll be right back with you after these messages.
Check.
Oh dear. Time for a little gamesmanship with new high karate gamesman.
Your move.
New gamesman from high karate. For the man who plays to win.
India, land of fascination, with a tempting and distinctive cuisine. For authentic Indian dishes, visit this restaurant. The atmosphere of India and Indian courtesy will add to your enjoyment.
Okay, yes, so let's get stuck in. I've got my top 5 resurrected fragrances from Dua. They're actually the 5 I own. They're the only 5 that are in that category that I own, but I guess they're the 5 I clearly found most interesting and wanted to get. Of course, I must tell you before I get into that the fragrances have all been sent to me free over the past, well, actually a couple of years. One of them goes back way back, and I do get some fragrances, 2 maybe 3 each month, free from the company, and on the understanding that I'll do a video each month for them. So I hope that's okay. I guess they would probably rather I always just review the latest releases. That's probably where their biggest sales come. But as you can see today, I focus on the ones that I'm most interested in some cases ones that have been out ages, and try and keep it true to my own taste in terms of what I review. I think their fragrances are really good. They smell great. They're very close to the fragrances that they copy. They are, of course, a clone house, and they have terrific performance. They're not the cheapest fragrances in the world, and the packaging, some people feel, is a little bit basic, although I think these new latest kind of bottle designs they have are pretty good. I enjoy them, although they're sort of small and simple. They're 30ml bottles, usually priced in the ones I'm talking about here today around about the $60-ish mark. I think it's Black Friday week, which originated over in America but is now a worldwide thing. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure if you check on their website, if it is Black Friday when you're watching this, or as we run up to it, they'll be doing some kind of special offer. So check if any of these fall under that. I'm pretty sure they will. So it'd be a good time to maybe pick some of them up. So the concept that I'm talking about here is going to be 5 fragrances which you can't get anymore. Either they're totally discontinued, designer or niche fragrances, or they are sometimes take a batch, a vintage formula of a fragrance that you can't get easily anymore and recreate that. So I think that's a really, really interesting concept, and in a way we can say, well, these are not copies of anything else that you can easily buy off the shelves or order online from the original makers. Let's see which ones I really like. So the one that I wanted to kick off with first, actually, as I film this today, I've just checked on the website, and I was kind of sad to see that it appears to be sold out. This is the most recent release of these ones, I think, and this is Midnight Rendezvous. Now this is Dua's take actually on La Nuit de l'Homme from Yves Saint Laurent, which I'm just going to grab the bottle of that one. Hang on, don't go anywhere. Hello, I'm back. Yes, of course, Yves Saint Laurent's La Nuit de l'Homme, and famously this one, most people agree, has been reformulated a great deal. It was first released in 2009, and a lot of people really love it, but are very disappointed that it keeps getting watered down, and people love the 2009, 10, 11, 12 and maybe 13 batches and find that the performance is much better on those. So I think what to have done in getting a batch of one of those old bottles, not sure which one, they run it through some kind of machine and chemists work on it to break down as closely as they can exactly what was in it, and then they pretty much recreate that. They're never 100% accurate, even Dua admit that, but most people feel they're probably 90-95% similar in smell usually, and often with a stronger concentration of the perfume oil, which is a good thing. So these are extracts de parfum, often at 30% concentration of actual fragrance oil or more. That's way more than normal designer fragrances. The notes in this one are cardamom, bergamot, lavender, cedar, cumin and vetiver, and I've got some on my hand here. I've been so impressed with this one. I was never the guy who thought La Nuit de l'Homme was the best thing ever, and I did used to have a 2012 batch which I ended up selling. They go for extortionate prices, those vintage batches of La Nuit de l'Homme, and it was only a mid-price kind of designer fragrance. So I can't speak of in-depth knowledge of the vintage batches, but what I can say is this is a really, really beautiful, classy, grown up, very modern smelling. It's not one of my sort of classic style that I sometimes like. The lovely cardamom and lavender and this kind of sweetness, almost a Coca-Cola-esque thing. It's really, really nice. It has a kind of a powdery feel. And what Dua have done here is very similar in smell to my non-vintage 2015 bottle, but I can certainly tell you that it is a great deal stronger. This is modest in performance, a little weak if I'm honest, and the Dua version, I wouldn't call this beast mode, but it is strong. It's a very strong smell, and it's very, very similar in scent to La Nuit de l'Homme from Yves Saint Laurent. So if that's something that interests you, whether you could analyse it next to a vintage batch and it would be bang on, I don't know, but it's beautiful stuff, and I really like what they've done here. So check that one out. I'm sure it will be back in stock very soon. Don't forget, if you'd like to join the Smelly Army private members club over on Patreon, there's a link in the description to do that. It costs just $2 a month, and you get an extra video from me every week, plus you get to watch everything I've already uploaded in there. We're building a really nice community, lots of interaction, and I'd love to see you in there. Before we go any further, I must just throw in one that doesn't fit into today's category because I think it's so good and I wanted to get it in a video somewhere. This is very much a fragrance that's still available. It's Xerjoff's 1861. This is actually an older style bottle. Beautiful citrus aromatic fragrance I absolutely adore, and Dua have a version of this now called Victorian. So it's going to be much less expensive than the Xerjoff one. And significantly, I've really tried this out. It is a really, really strong performing fragrance. And the Xerjoff one is just decent, okay. It kind of lasts okay, but it doesn't project massively. This is quite noticeable and very, very strong. And it's a beautiful kind of citrus melange, as Max 40 would say. What I really pick up on is this lovely mandarin note. It literally smells like when you burst open a sort of tangerine or a mandarin and the juice splashes out. Really, really crisp citrus. Beautiful, beautiful fragrance. Very delicate in the scent, but now quite strong in performance. So well done to Dua. I like it when they give us fragrances like citrus ones that are a bit weak and they beef them up. Actually, that one's a decent performer in the original, but now we've got a really, really strong performer in the Dua version, and they've called it Victorian. So there you go. Moving on, let's look at one of these other resurrected scents, and this is one of my ones that I've really loved and been so happy to get hold of. I've never smelled the original. It's been out for ages from Dua, but it's still one of my favourites, and this is Chypre Supreme. This is their attempt to recreate Moss Bresches from Tom Ford, a discontinued private blend that is highly sought after, very expensive, I think, mostly if you can find it on eBay nowadays. So I'm just going to pull up my little idiot cards here, or bits of paper, with the notes. So the notes on this one: beeswax absolute, clary sage, cedar, tarragon, rosemary, labdanum, benzoin and patchouli. It's a Chypre mossy green type of fragrance. They talk about oak moss also on the Dua website, although that note is not officially listed. So that's one of those kind of banned ingredients or ingredients that are heavily restricted. Oh wow, this is a real wow fragrance to me. The others are not wow fragrances. They're just really nice, but this one really excites me. You can see my eyes widening when I smell it, but it's really kind of pungent and unctuous. It almost has the feel of one of those bottles of vintage fragrance where you think, oh, maybe it's kind of congealed a bit over the years and got stronger, but it clearly hasn't, because I've only had this one a few months. It's really mossy, it's a little bit dank, it's sort of unctuous and goo. It has an almost gooey feel. It feels like some kind of resinous goo from a tree. Sort of, you know, if you made an artistic representation of that in a fragrance in a really beautiful old school way. If you like vintage fragrances, whether you've smelled the original Chypre Moss Bresches, which I haven't, Chypre Supreme is superb. And if someone told me this was a vintage 70s or 80s fragrance and it had been, you know, they'd got it on eBay, really rare, I'd say, yeah, you can tell that's made of ingredients they can't use anymore, but it obviously isn't, because Dua have used them and it smells terrific. So Moss Bresches recreated in the form of Chypre Supreme. And swiftly on to the next one then, Vert Instinct. Oh wow, I really want to smell the original now of this. This is Creed's Green Valley. I think that was a 1999 release, a superb grassy green citrusy fragrance. I'll read out the notes. It's sort of the same kind of feel as green Irish tweed, but a bit different. Let's put it that way. I have never smelled the original because it's so hard to get hold of. I don't seem to actually have the note listing, so I'll just tell you what I get. It's got this kind of mint or peppermint thing in there, more noticeably I think than green Irish tweed by Creed. Beautiful grassy green notes, lemon verbena, fresh and summery, even not so much of that dihydro or dihydromercenol thing that's a bit like cool water. It doesn't have that element. It's almost more like you expect green Irish tweed to smell when you hear the name of it. It's super green and fresh and zesty, and it puts a real smile on your face. And sometimes it's the middle of winter here in the UK, but I like to spray it to remind myself of summer and spring. It's a real happy fragrance. I'm desperate to try the original now. Thank you to Dua for giving us the chance to get very close, probably in smell. And again, very, very nice, good performance on all of these. Good to beast mode, I think, on most of them. Some of them not quite beast mode, but all good. So I don't think we've got many left now. Ah, yes, okay. Royal Portugal. This is a bit debatable. Have they resurrected anything that you can't buy today? This is their recreation, of course, of Creed's Bois de Portugal. Here's the old style bottles that they used to do. But when I interviewed Masham Raza about this one a couple of years ago, he said he had an older batch in terms of the bottle that he based it on, I think, or maybe it was even his memory of older batches, but he tried to give what he felt was a little bit of more of the green brightness in the opening, which the fragrance does have to some extent still, but maybe to a lesser extent today. So, it's beautiful. It is different to my batch of Bois de Portugal, but it seems to take the green, fresh opening and accentuate it and make that hang around longer before you go to the sort of dusty, woody, sandalwood and lavender and vetiver in the base. So I think they've given us something that gets a little bit more perhaps to how older batches of Bois de Portugal smell. It's certainly a little bit different to today's version. My one's a bit old, and then the ones I've smelled in shops are a little bit different. I really love it anyway, so I kind of shoehorned this one in as a recreation. But I really, really think Royal Portugal, for fans of Bois de Portugal, worth checking out. And of course the price quite a bit lower. Again, like the original Bois de Portugal, exceedingly good in performance. Last, but by no means least, it's the one that, now is this the one of the Poseidon's elixirs. I know that Gent Sense, Ashton, from the channel Gent Sense, kind of trashed it a little bit and said it smelled like a hamster's cage. Well, I don't smell hamsters' cages, but I don't get that. But I do respect him. He's a good reviewer. But however, I really think this one, Poseidon's Elixir 11Z, is a very, very nice Aventus-themed fragrance indeed, with stunningly long and slightly annoying performance levels. This one's kind of beast mode. They're of course trying to recreate the apparently amazing 11Z or 11ZZ01 batch, a 2011 batch of Aventus. That's meant to be an absolute cracker. People pay insane prices to buy a bottle or a decant of that actual juice. I cannot say I've ever smelled it, and I'm not an expert on Aventus. I do have a couple of versions. It's a really, really beautiful, bright, zesty, usual kind of thing with Aventus bergamot pineapple in the opening. And I think there's a really nice element of the smoky birchwood that does come through and give you a very piercing and yet complex and deep fragrance that combines all of the best elements of the real Aventus, but does smell quite different in the end to my 2015 batch. How close it smells to the original 11Z01, if anyone's got both, please tell me. I don't know. I'm kind of sceptical how close they can get to actual Creed batches. I don't know, but all I can say is if I do feel like an Aventus clone, which I perhaps don't as often as I used to, this would be a cracking choice if you want to actually get smelled. The one thing I must say about Dua fragrances, and I know not everyone is a fan of what they do, I do find when I do wear these to work, even meeting family, friends, whatever, they may know I'm into fragrance, so they're not totally unsolicited compliments, but most times people don't say anything about my fragrance. When I wear a Dua one, people go, oh, that's a nice one, oh, nice smells. Just saying, it's the truth. Thank you ever so much for watching. Do check these fragrances out and let me know. Oh yeah, the one I want to ask you, the question, which fragrances would you like to see Dua resurrect next? I would wonder how they could do with Dolce & Gabbana By Man resurrection. I wish someone would resurrect Dolce & Gabbana Masculine too. That's another discontinued gem. So I'll throw those two out there and throw it over to you guys. Please let us know which ones you'd like Dua to recreate in the comments below. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Remember, whatever you're doing in life, let's project. Bye bye.